Welcome everybody to another edition of the Hurry Up. I'm your host Adam. Let's get into this. So before we get into the Giant news, there's news around the NFL, especially the news about Matt Ryan going from Atlanta to Indianapolis, basically trying to make them a Super Bowl contender. I would have loved this move maybe a couple years ago when there was not such a stacked lineup on the AFC side. But hey, they're trying. Everybody's trying in the AFC to win the title. They know that they can beat it. They know that Kansas City is vulnerable right now. So they're going for it. They are going for it. I mean, especially the Chargers. But hey, Indianapolis, you think you're a quarterback away? Well, here's your chance to find out. And again, this is why we play the games. You can't just anoint people, Super Bowl champions or whatnot because they play the games on Sunday. Well, in this week, CBS, who has usually the AFC contracts, boy, oh boy, oh boy. Do not let any of those games get flexed because let me tell you, you're going to have some barn burners going on there. Matt Ryan, I think the Indianapolis Colts are ahead of their class against Tennessee because Tennessee, I think Matt Ryan's a better quarterback than Tannehill, even at this late stage in his career. And then the AFC West is the AFC West. Every team in that division has a quarterback and is trying to fight for it. Denver, the Raiders, Chargers, and the Chiefs. AFC East, you got the Bills and the Patriots. The Bills are trying to go for it as well. I mean, my God, it's gonna be one. If the Bills get it, they would have earned that Lombardi. Okay, and we don't even want to really even talk about the AFC North because they're probably making one team, if that, even though they got Deshaun Watson in that division now, who, man, Cleveland, you got a Brown standard, no pun intended, but hey, let's see if it works out for you. I don't know. More people are mad about the contract and the litigation that's happening, which is kind of, shoddy by the Browns, but, they paid their man. They got their man. Didn't want to go there, but money talks, bullshit walks, right? So, they gave him $230 million, and he said, hey, that's life-changing money. I mean, what can you do, right? But let's get into some of the Giant moves. They signed Jaide Ward, Jamil Douglas, and Matt Burrito, or at least they signed Jamil Douglas a couple days ago, but they all got introduced to the media. Matt Burrito, let's start with him. I like this as a depth signing. It gives you flexibility on many things. You can trade Barkley if you want because remember the Bills did a running back by committee, so they don't necessarily need a star back. This guy does a lot of the things. If you think of what the Giants tried to do with Dion Lewis, this is kind of similar to that, a third down back, a guy with a little speed. Although Dion Lewis was washed, this guy is kind of in the prime of his career. He was a little banged up last year, but he's got enough film on tape for you guys to go look at and see what he can do. Very explosive, very fast. Going to change the dynamic of the third down packages for the Giants because instead you're not going to know if they're going to blitz, you're not going to know if they're going to run or if they're going to pass. And with this guy, you can do a shotgun draw and maybe he breaks a 9-yard run on a 3rd and 9, or you do a 3rd and 2 and you do a little flare pass to him, or maybe he takes the distance. I'm not saying he's better than Barkley, but what it does is he adds another dimension that, even though you have Barkley it's another dimension that, you need to look into. Now, I'm not going to say the Giants are going to trade him, but there's a possibility of it. I know that they're sniffing around backs in the draft. I like Walker from Michigan State. I think he'd be a great bell cow for the Giants, especially if you're going to walk on from Barkley. I think Barkley is great for what he does, but I don't think he is a Northeast back. You know what I mean? The Northeast back, and that's what I mean, is nuts and bolts type of give it to him and just hammer it in like a Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw. But we'll see what happens. There's still a lot to play out before we get to training camp. Remember, we're gearing up for training camp and the season. And the off season happens until they do that first July practice, which is still technically the off season, but, they'll be gearing up in July. So the Giants also have training camp, OTAs coming up in April, so they'll get a good look at some of their players there. Jamil Douglas, let's get into him. He's a good depth piece, possible spot start if you need. He has experience in both guard and center, which allows them to be versatile, and that's what you're going to see. I was going to say to the Giants, they're going to draft a guy like this, but they already have one in-house now. So I think that they'll try to go for a right tackle and then maybe a developmental guard / center in the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th rounds, whatever value is there. This allows them the flexibility to do that in the later rounds because they don't necessarily have to worry about it if they got a Jamil Douglas back there. Not to mention they have Matt Cano, Brad Bretterson. So, for example, they have 5 linemen they signed, right? And they had 5 linemen on the roster. Now they have 10. They're going to bring in about 15 guys, probably 2 draft picks and 3 undrafted free agents, and let them fight. May the best 5 win. So like I was saying is, this allows you versatility and flexibility in those later rounds. Why? Because now you're not like, oh my God, I need to pick a guy. We've got guys in house. Let's just get our right tackle at 5. At 7, you can do whatever you want. And then at 2, it's open and fair game because you know that maybe at 3rd round you can pick up a guard or a guard/center type, another guy to bring in here because again you have Shane Lemieux like I was saying before, Brad Bredesen like I was saying before, you have Wes Marshall, you have a couple other guys on there, Thomas on the line already, and then a few other guys. But they start Corey Cunningham, Gano, Jamil Douglas. Glowinski and Joe Feliciano. So technically, those guys, if they wanted to, could be your starting 5, but they're not. I think 3 of those guys are going to end up be starters, and then you're going to have your right tackle and your left tackle, and Andrew Thomas, and let's say they get a Kwanu or Neal at your right tackle. So this is good for the Giants. This is a good direction for them to go with Jamil Douglas. He's a versatile guy, has played a lot in the league. He's 30 years old, has experience. I think he has experience with Bobby Johnson as well. So it's going to be fun to see where this goes, and may the best 5 win. Again, they're not done. I think they're going to maybe sign another cheap veteran or 2, but definitely going to bring in some first-year players, some undrafted free agents, and of course the draft is coming up in April. We'll definitely get some finishing pieces there. And they're not going to be finished, mind you. They're going to be able to do this into next year and the year after that. The line is going to be constantly a rebuilt line, right? Because you're going to have a lot of young guys. So if you get your right tackle and your left tackle, and then you draft another guy, and then, maybe Shane Lemieux comes through. Because the thing I want to say is you don't necessarily need everybody to be first-round picks in the offensive line. And that's great, but it's also not affordable. Because if you have to pay Thomas and you have to pay this other kid, and then you have to pay a guard, it's going to cost you a lot of money. I mean, yes, you want a nice O-line, but not at the expense of the rest of your team. So you got to develop guys. That's why you develop guys. Because guys in the first round get injured sometimes, don't develop. You need to develop players. So there are a lot of depth signings. I like this. The Giants are not going to be in the cupboard when guys go down throughout the season. They're going to be able to bring guys in and go forward. So that's good. Last guy they brought in is Jaide Ward. Jaide Ward, I think is how you pronounce it. JW, I'm going to call him. He's a defensive end / linebacker, 3-4 defensive end, stand-up defensive end. He's gonna help out the defense. He's nothing spectacular. I mean, don't go out and think, oh, this guy is going to get you 10 sacks. He's probably going to get you 4, 5, maybe 6. He's only had 10 sacks in his career, so I don't expect him to explode all of a sudden now because he's back in Wink Martindale's defense. But he's a good depth piece, a good value piece, a good guy to help out. You lost Austin Johnson, so you got Jaide Ward. He probably will be a starter until they find somebody new. So the Giants finally got somebody on defense, somebody who can talk about, someone who knows Wink Martindale's system, who can help usher in the language that comes with the defense and the versatility. So those have been some moves, NFL moves, Giant moves. Listen, this has been the wild, wild west of free agency. I love it. Sit back, get your popcorn ready, and go. And not to mention, a couple of pro days are coming up as well. Follow those. Kenny Pickett had a good one last week. I think he'll be the 6th overall pick. And Malik Willis and Matt Carroll are gonna show up and show out at their pro days as well. So those are going to be some quarterbacks that are going to be in the draft as well. So I'm sure some are going to be taken. Even though we had a lot of quarterback movement, doesn't mean you don't draft a guy just because you got a guy as a starter. Like, for example, Mitch Trubisky doesn't preclude you from drafting a Malik Willis or a Matt Carroll. All right? So look at those things that are coming on the docket. We'll have a pro day recap for you about with Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, and Malik Willis. I'll give you my thoughts on those 3 guys as we go. Look for that. This has been The Hurry Up. I'm your boy. Holla at me. Subscribe. Hit the like button. I'm out.